Every life is a story, every moment a chapter. Here on Slow English Stories, we pause to listen.
In a house that always smelled of warm bread and flour dust, there lived a miller and his daughter.
The house was attached to the mill, and so it was a place of constant, gentle sound.
Day and night, the great stone wheel turned, grinding the grain into fine white powder.
It was a sound of work, of purpose, of life itself.
The miller was an old man now, his hair as white as the flour that covered his clothes.
His daughter, Elsbeth, was the light of his life.
She was not a princess from a grand castle, but she had a quiet strength and a beauty that was as simple and true as a wild flower growing by the river.
She managed their small home with a gentle hand, her movements sure and calm.
She baked the bread, tended the small garden, and cared for her father, whose hands were now stiff with age.
Their life was like the river that turned the mill wheel. It flowed in a steady, predictable rhythm, marked by the rising of the sun and the turning of the seasons.
One afternoon, a fine black carriage, pulled by two strong horses, stopped before their modest home.
A man stepped out.
He was dressed in clothes of dark, rich velvet, and a handsome gold watch chain hung across his vest.
He was a stranger, but he had the easy smile of a friend.
He told the miller that he was a wealthy merchant from a distant town, and he had heard tales of the miller's beautiful daughter.
The miller, who had been worrying for many months about his daughter's future, was overjoyed.
He saw in this man a chance for Elsbeth to have a life of comfort and security, a life free from the endless work of the mill.
The suitor was polite and charming.
He praised the miller's flour and admired the simple cleanliness of their home.
He brought them gifts, a bottle of sweet wine for the father and a delicate silk ribbon for the daughter.
The miller could find no fault with him.
And so, when the rich man asked for his daughter's hand in marriage, the miller quickly agreed.
But Elsbeth did not feel the joy a young bride should feel.
When the suitor took her hand, his skin felt as cold as a river stone in winter.
When he looked at her, his eyes were like dark, still water, and she could not see what was hidden in their depths.
His smile was perfect, but it never seemed to reach his eyes.
A strange feeling, a cold shudder, moved through her whenever she saw him or even thought of him.
It was a feeling she could not name, a deep and quiet warning from a place inside her that had no words.
She tried to tell her father about this feeling, but he only smiled and patted her hand.
He told her she was just nervous, as all young women are before their wedding.
He saw only a rich, respectable man who would care for her.
He did not feel the coldness in the man's hand or see the emptiness in his eyes.
A few weeks later, the suitor came to visit again.
He smiled his perfect, empty smile.
"My dear," he said to Elsbeth, "we are to be married soon, but you have not yet seen my home.
You must come and visit me, so you can see the place where we will build our life together."
A chill ran down Elsbeth's back.
"I do not know the way to your house," she said, her voice small.
"My house is deep in the forest," he answered smoothly.
"But do not worry.
I will make a path for you."
On the day you are to come, I will scatter a trail of ashes from the edge of the woods all the way to my front door.
You cannot get lost.
His words were meant to be comforting, but they felt like a cage closing around her.
The thought of a path made of ashes, the gray remains of a fire, filled her with a new and sharper fear.
But her father was pleased.
He insisted that she must go.
And so, she had no choice but to agree.
When the day came for her to make the journey, a heavy feeling settled in her heart.
The sky was a pale, uncertain gray.
As she prepared to leave, she walked through her small kitchen.
She saw a sack of dried peas and another of lentils, which she had planned to use for soup.
An idea, born of the deep, quiet warning inside her, came to her.
Without a word to her father, she filled both of her pockets with the small, hard seeds.
They felt solid and real in her hands, a small comfort against the formless fear in her heart.
She walked to the edge of the great forest.
Just as the suitor had promised, a thin, dark line of ashes marked the beginning of a path.
It snaked away into the trees, a dead, gray trail against the living green of the moss.
She took a deep breath and stepped into the shadows of the woods.
As she walked, she followed the line of ashes.
But at every few steps, she would take a single pea or a lentil from her pocket and drop it on the ground, one to the right of the path, and one to the left.
The forest was a place of deep and ancient magic.
At first, the woods were beautiful.
Sunlight filtered through the leaves, making dancing patterns on the ground.
Birds sang in the high branches.
But as she walked deeper, the forest began to change.
The trees grew closer together, their branches twisting into strange, gnarled shapes, like the arms of old men.
The sunlight faded, and the air grew cold and still.
The songs of the birds were replaced by an unnerving silence.
The world of her father's mill, with its warm smells and steady sounds, felt a lifetime away.
This was a different world, a place of secrets and shadows, where anything could be hiding just beyond the next tree.
She walked for the entire day, following the winding path of ashes deeper and deeper into the heart of the forest.
Finally, as the last of the light was dying in the sky, she came to a clearing.
In the middle of the clearing stood a solitary house.
It was a dark, silent place, with a long, heavy roof that sloped down so low it almost touched the ground.
It looked as if the house were trying to hide from the sky, to pull itself down into the earth.
No smoke rose from its chimney.
No light shone from its windows.
It was as silent as a tomb.
With a trembling hand, she pushed open the heavy wooden door.
It creaked loudly in the silence.
She stepped inside.
The house was empty.
She called out, but only the echo of her own voice answered her.
A strange feeling washed over her, a sense of great wrongness.
Suddenly, a sharp voice cried out from the shadows.
Turn back, you young bride.
You are in a murderer's house.
Elsbeth looked up and saw a small bird in a cage hanging on the wall.
It was the bird that had spoken.
It fluffed its feathers and cried out again, its voice filled with urgency.
Turn back, you young bride.
You are in a murderer's house.
The bird's warning confirmed the terrible feeling in her heart.
She was not imagining the danger.
It was real.
Her fear was real.
She moved slowly through the house, from one cold room to the next.
Everything was strangely neat, but it felt as if no one had truly lived there for a very long time.
In one room, she found chests filled with gold and silver coins.
In another, the closets were filled with beautiful silk dresses, far too many for one person.
They belonged to other women, she realized with a sickening lurch in her stomach.
Other women who had come here and never left.
Finally, she found a steep, narrow staircase leading down into the darkness.
She crept down the stairs and found herself in a large, damp cellar.
In the corner, sitting on a low stool, was a very, very old woman.
Her back was bent, and her head was shaking from side to side, a constant, trembling motion.
"Can you tell me," Elsbeth whispered, her voice barely audible, "if my bridegroom lives here?"
The old woman looked up, and her eyes were filled with a deep and ancient sadness.
"Ah, you poor child," she rasped, her voice like the sound of dry leaves.
"Where have you come to?"
"You think you are a bride, but you have come to a murderer's den."
"Your bridegroom and his friends, they are robbers."
"But they do not only steal gold.
"They are eaters of men."
Soon they will return.
"And when they have you, they will kill you without mercy."
They will cook you and eat you."
The old woman's words were so terrible that Elsbeth felt the world begin to spin.
But the old woman reached out and grabbed her arm with a surprisingly strong hand.
"I will not let them have you," she said.
"I have been a prisoner here for many years.
"I have waited for a chance to escape."
Now you must do exactly as I say.
"Be quiet as a mouse."
Do not make a sound."
The old woman led her to the back of the cellar, to a place where enormous wooden barrels stood in a line against the wall.
She pointed to the largest one.
"Hide behind there," she whispered.
"Do not move, no matter what you see or hear."
"All will be over with you if they find you."
Elsbeth squeezed herself into the small, dark space behind the barrel, pulling her skirts in tight around her.
Scarcely had she hidden herself when she heard the sound of heavy boots and loud, rough voices from above.
The robbers had come home.
They came stomping down the cellar stairs, their laughter echoing off the stone walls.
They were dragging another young woman with them, a girl no older than Elsbeth.
The girl was crying and struggling, but the men were drunk and paid no attention to her screams.
From her hiding place, Elsbeth watched in frozen horror.
The men forced the poor girl to drink from 3 different glasses of wine.
One was filled with white wine, one with red, and one with yellow.
As soon as she had drunk the last glass, her eyes went wide, and she fell to the floor.
Her heart had stopped.
The men laughed.
They tore off her fine clothes and lifted her body onto a large wooden table in the center of the room.
Then they took out long, sharp knives.
Elsbeth pressed her hand over her mouth to keep from screaming.
She closed her eyes, but she could not shut out the terrible sounds that followed.
She could only sit in the darkness, trembling, as the men did their monstrous work.
After some time, one of the robbers noticed a small gold ring on the dead girl's finger.
He tried to pull it off, but it would not move.
Impatient, he grabbed a small axe from the wall.
"If it will not come off," he growled, "then the finger must."
He brought the axe down with a sharp crack.
But in that moment, something strange and terrible happened.
The severed finger, with the gold ring still on it, flew up into the air.
It sailed in a perfect arc over the top of the barrel and landed, with a soft thud, directly in Elsbeth's lap.
She stared at it, unable to breathe.
It was a small, pale thing, a piece of undeniable, horrific proof.
The robber who had cut it off cursed and began to look for it.
He took a candle and searched on the floor around the table.
"I cannot find it," he grumbled.
Another robber pointed toward the barrels.
"Did you look behind the large one?" he asked.
Elsbeth's heart stopped.
The man took a step toward her hiding place.
But just then, the old woman's raspy voice called out,
"Come and eat now.
"Leave the finger.
You can look for it in the morning."
It will not run away."
The robbers grumbled, but they were hungry.
"The old woman is right," one of them said.
They gave up their search and sat down at the table to eat their terrible meal.
The old woman moved among them, filling their cups with wine.
But into each cup, she poured a few drops of a dark liquid from a small bottle she had hidden in her pocket.
Soon, the robbers' heads began to nod.
Their loud voices grew quiet.
One by one, they slumped over the table or slid from their benches onto the stone floor, where they began to snore loudly.
They were in a deep, drugged sleep.
When the last snore echoed through the cellar, the old woman motioned for Elsbeth to come out.
Elsbeth crept from behind the barrel, her legs shaking so badly she could barely stand.
The robbers lay all in rows on the ground, like fallen soldiers.
She had to step over their sleeping bodies, her heart pounding with the fear that one of them might wake.
But God helped her, and she made it past them safely.
The old woman led her up the stairs, through the silent, dark house, and unbolted the heavy front door.
Together, they hurried out into the cool night air, away from the murderer's den, as fast as they could.
Once they were under the open sky, Elsbeth looked for the path of ashes, but the night wind had swept it all away.
There was no trace of it.
For a moment, panic seized her.
But then the old woman pointed to the ground.
In the pale light of the moon, Elsbeth saw them, tiny green shoots, pushing their way up through the dark earth.
The peas and lentils she had dropped had sprouted.
Her small act of foresight had created a living path, a trail of new life to lead her out of the land of death.
All night long they walked, following the faint, silvery line of green through the dark woods.
And just as the sun was beginning to rise, painting the eastern sky with soft shades of pink and gold, they saw the familiar shape of the mill.
They were home.
Elsbeth ran into her father's arms and told him everything that had happened.
The day that was meant to be her wedding day arrived.
The miller invited all of his friends and family to the feast, just as they had planned.
The bridegroom also came, looking as handsome and charming as ever.
He did not know that his secret was discovered.
As everyone sat around the long wooden table, it was the custom for each guest to tell a story.
One by one, they told tales of adventure or funny stories from the village.
The bride, Elsbeth, sat silent and still.
Finally, the bridegroom turned to her with his false smile.
"And you, my love," he said.
"Do you not know story?"
"Tell us something."
Elsbeth looked at him, her gaze steady and clear.
"I will," she said, her voice ringing through the suddenly quiet room.
"I will tell you about a dream I had."
She began to speak, and she told the story of her journey, exactly as it had happened.
"I dreamt I was walking alone through a forest," she said, "and I came at last to a house.
There was no living soul inside, but a bird in a cage on the wall cried out, 'Turn back, you young bride.'
You are in a murderer's house."
The bridegroom laughed, but his laugh sounded tight and nervous.
"My darling," he said, "it was only a dream."
Elsbeth continued, her voice never wavering.
"I went down into the cellar, and there sat a very, very old woman, her head shaking.
I asked her if my bridegroom lived in that house.
And she said, 'Ah, poor child, you have come to a murderer's den.
He will kill you and cook you and eat you.'
My darling, it was only a dream," the bridegroom repeated, his face growing pale.
The guests were all leaning forward now, listening intently.
"The old woman hid me behind a large barrel," Elsbeth went on.
And soon the robbers came home, dragging a young girl with them.
They gave her 3 kinds of wine to drink, white, red, and yellow, and her heart stopped beating.
My darling, it was only a dream, the man cried, his voice now sharp with fear.
Elsbeth looked directly at him, her eyes like chips of ice.
Then they laid her on a table and did terrible things to her beautiful body.
And one of the robbers saw a gold ring on her finger.
Because it was hard to pull off, he took an axe and cut off the finger.
She paused, and the silence in the room was absolute.
But the finger, she said, her voice rising. The finger sprang up into the air, and it flew over the great barrel, and it fell right into my lap.
And this was not a dream.
She held up her hand.
Because here is the finger with the ring.
With those words, she pulled the severed finger from her pocket and showed it to everyone there.
The robber bridegroom, his face now as white as chalk, jumped up from his chair and tried to run.
But the guests seized him.
They held him fast, along with his men who had been sitting among them, and they delivered them all to the court.
And there they paid for their wicked crimes.
Elsbeth never married.
She stayed in the house by the mill, in the world of warm bread and flour dust.
She had walked through the darkest part of the forest and had found her way back to the light, not by magic or by rescue, but by her own quiet courage.
And that was a strength greater than any fortune a rich husband could provide.